If you've ever found yourself wondering what exactly should I be doing this month on the flower farm, then this video is for you. Many of you asked for a month-by-month flower farming task list, and today I'm sharing exactly that. The key jobs I do each month to keep my flower beds productive, my seedlings happy, and the whole farm ticking along smoothly. Whether you're growing for a flower business, a cutting patch, or just for the sheer joy of it, this video will give you a clear plan to follow all year long. Grab a notebook if you like taking notes, or better yet, download the free printable I've made for you to help track your own flower farming tasks month by month. I'm here in Yorkshire, UK, so the timing of your tasks might change a little depending on your climate, but I'll be talking in terms of seasons and frost dates, so it'll be easy for you to adapt wherever you're growing. Let's dig into what to do and when to keep your cutting garden flourishing all year round. One of the biggest lessons I've learned as a flower grower is that timing is everything. You can have the best seeds, the most beautiful varieties and great soil, but if you fall behind on key tasks, it can really set you back. Miss a sowing window and you might lose weeks of growth. Skip weeding for just a few days in summer and suddenly your seedlings are competing for their lives. It's amazing how much smoother everything runs when you keep on top of things month by month. I've learned this the hard way over the years. I remember at the beginning I often fell behind with getting tulips planted or biennials sown, and it always meant I had gaps in production and unhealthy plants, which meant less profit. Doing the right jobs at the right time not only keeps your plants healthy, but it also means you'll have a steady, continuous flow of flowers right through the season, instead of feast and famine moments, where everything flowers at once and then nothing for weeks. That's why this kind of planning is so valuable. It gives you rhythm and structure and helps you stay one step ahead rather than constantly playing catch up. So let's go through the year together, 1 month at a time, and look at the jobs that will help you keep your cutting garden or flower farm flourishing from the first sowings of spring to the final harvests of autumn. I'm starting the year in February, which is typically the start of the growing season here in the UK. It's an exciting time of year after a long winter and we can finally get back out in the garden. In mid-February we reach 10 hours of daylight per day, which is the minimum required for plant growth. At this time of year we're still about 11 or 12 weeks away from our last frost date, but plants with a long growing season will get some time to grow in pots before planting out later in spring. The most pressing job at this time of year is seed starting. Hardy annuals such as snapdragons, ammi, larkspur, nigella, cornflower, calendula and corncockle can all be sown now in the greenhouse or on the windowsill. The greenhouse doesn't need to be heated, these varieties are cold tolerant. You can also start seeds on a windowsill, but be mindful that the warmth of your house may cause leggy seedlings. This is where plants grow too fast in response to the warm temperatures, but not enough light. If you have leggy seedlings, it might be worth waiting a bit longer so you know you can get the plants outside to light sooner. Leggy seedlings generally tend to be less healthy and more disease prone. Another task for February, if you haven't done it already, is to divide dormant summer flowering perennials. You can use a spade to dig up clumps, slice them up and replant them. You can do this with perennial cut flowers such as sedum, delphinium and eryngium. This can either be done as the weather starts to warm up in early spring or in autumn. Prune roses down to 1/3 of their size, cut down to an outward-facing bud so that the plant forms an open-centred shape. Remove dead and diseased stems using clean, sharp secateurs. Before we get on to March tasks, I want to share something with you. As an on-the-go person, I really needed deodorant that works for me. I really like to find products that have got natural ingredients that are good for my body and skin, so I've partnered with Wild. Before we partnered, I'd been using their products for a while, and what I really like about Wild is the plastic-free refills and the aluminium cases, which are really gorgeous. They've got lots of lovely designs. They also plant a tree for every purchase, which I love. The aluminium cases are really easy to refill with their gorgeous scents, and you can even have the cases personalised. So if you're looking for a more sustainable deodorant option, then I've got a discount code for you to use on all Wild products. This time Wild are offering 25% off rather than the usual 20% off, which you'll be able to use for the rest of November up until the 1st of December, when the discount will go back down to 20%. Use the code BLOOM25 at checkout, click the link in the description or scan this QR code to get your discount. I hope you enjoy giving Wild a try, and let's get back to the tasks that we need to do in March. Moving on to March, where we are continuing to get longer and warmer days, and there's yet more to do this month. If you're growing eucalyptus, March is the time for coppicing. Established eucalyptus trees which have a trunk diameter of over 2 inches can be coppiced to produce lots of fresh growth for the coming season. Cut the trunk down to knee height and make the cut sloping towards the south to encourage healing and prevent disease. I have a more detailed video about this which I'll link down in the description. Also, earlier on this year I visited Neil Robertson, a eucalyptus farmer in North Wales. If you want to learn more about eucalyptus production, then check out that video. Seed starting continues this month, and generally I wait until March to sow half-hardy annuals such as amaranthus, zinnias and phlox. Have some fleece or bubble wrap on hand to cover them during the night if the weather gets particularly cold. If you've overwintered any hardy annuals in the greenhouse, you can start planting them out if the ground is unfrozen. If you started hardy annuals in autumn and you didn't get round to planting them outdoors the previous year, then plant them in spring instead. Hardy annuals are hardy, but make sure they're hardened off first by putting them outdoors during the day for a week or so before planting. If you've got ranunculus or anemones in the polytunnel, you might notice they're putting on some growth now. It's a good time to give them a feed. I'd recommend giving them some calcium in their feed to encourage stronger stems. Check out a recipe by John Palmer in the book Regenerative Grower's Guide to Garden Amendments. Start harvesting spring bulbs such as tulips. Start dahlia tubers off in crates or pots to take cuttings from them for planting this season. By April time we're getting close to the last frost and things should be growing really nicely by now. Because of that, it will be time to pot on hardy annuals sown in February. If you started seedlings in February, they should be growing well but running out of nutrients in the compost. Transfer them into larger pots with fresh potting compost to minimise stress and ensure they keep on growing. If you've ever potted on half a tray of plants and left some in the seed tray, you'll know how much of a difference this makes. It means that you can plant out strong and healthy plants when the risk of frost has passed. Continue to sow successions of flowers. If you want to learn more about planting successions of flowers, then check out my Growing Cut Flowers online course. I'll teach you how to create a plan that ensures flowers all season long. Start harvesting ranunculus and anemones. Prepare beds for spring planting. Weed beds, broadfork them to reduce compaction and add a fresh layer of compost in preparation for planting. If you have cover crops on beds, you can start to kill them off with sheets. And if you put sheets on your dahlias over winter, now is a good time to remove them. If you want to get in early to ensure you get your desired spring bulbs, you should be able to order them online now. If you've ordered dahlia cuttings, these can be potted up to grow on a little before planting them out next month. In my area, early May is when our average last frost date is. This is when we can start planting out half-hardy annuals in the field, but beware of sneaky frosts that sit outside the average frost dates. May is my absolute favourite time of year. Everything feels so promising and abundant. Plants and weeds will be growing in earnest now, so it's a good idea to stay on top of weeds while they're small. One of my favourite tools for small weed seedlings is the stirrup hoe. It slices through small plants easily. Do this at midday on a warm sunny day and the weed seedlings will dry out and die. It's also a good time to make sure everything is well mulched to reduce weed germination. Some good options for mulches include straw, grass clippings, wood chips, compost or leaves. If you're growing ranunculus and they are still flowering, they will go dormant and stop flowering at temperatures greater than 20 degrees Celsius. If you're growing them in a tunnel, try to increase ventilation if you can by raising the sides or keeping the doors open. It's also a good time to plant out dahlia tubers and cuttings. In June, overwintered hardy annuals such as larkspur, corncockle, cornflower and nigella should start flowering, so it's time to harvest flowers and deadhead them to keep the flowers coming. Feed plants every couple of weeks to support them while they're still producing. I prefer to use natural feeds like compost extracts, seaweed, fish and humic acid. Sow your last succession of annuals. These will be ready for harvest at the end of summer. You want to be sowing seeds that have a short time to maturity, such as zinnias, sunflowers, cornflowers, calendula and marigolds. It's now too late to sow annuals such as snapdragons, which have a 120-day time to harvest. Sow biennial seeds such as foxgloves, sweet williams, hesperus and honesty. We want to be planting these out as soon as they're big enough, which is usually around August time. Sometimes if we're having a hot month, I'll sow these somewhere in the shade. When the ranunculus stop flowering, pull up the corms, dry them and store them in a mesh bag somewhere cool until you can get them started again in autumn. Harvest biennials sown and planted from the previous year. Order an anemones and ranunculus for next season, and if you haven't ordered tulips and narcissi, you still have time. In July, we're getting into the swing of summer. Some crops are coming to an end while others are just starting up. It's time to plant out the last succession of hardy annuals sown last month. Continue to pick and deadhead annual flowers. Keep up with the weeding, feeding and watering, particularly if it starts getting hot and dry. Mulch beds to prevent the soil from being sunbaked. Cut back biennials once they finish flowering. Some biennials may come back the following year if you leave them in the ground, such as foxgloves and sweet williams. When crops come to an end, cut down the plants at the base and broadfork the bed to aerate the soil. Try not to leave beds empty. Empty beds can be planted with successions of plants or cover crops. Order hardy annual seeds for next season to sow from next month. August is a really abundant time of year, made even more exciting by the arrival of the dahlias, an absolute staple in the cut flower garden. You won't be lost for things to do in the garden this month. It's time to plant out biennials sown earlier on in the summer. Start harvesting and enjoying your dahlias. Keep harvesting and deadheading other cut flowers. Start collecting ripe seed from plants if you're saving your own seed. If you need some more specific advice on seed saving, then check out another one of my recent videos where I teach you all about how to save seeds from flowers, making sure you get the colours and traits you desire in the process. Towards the end of August, you can start sowing hardy annuals again for overwintering. Overwintered hardy annuals should be planted 6 weeks before the first frost, so count backwards from then to work out when you should be sowing the seed. For me here in Yorkshire, my first frost date is around the middle of November, meaning I should be planting out in the last week in September. So I want to start my seeds another few weeks before that to allow my plants to germinate and grow large enough for planting. In September, we continue to be able to cut buckets full of flowers. I usually start feeling a little sad that it's not going to last much longer, savouring the warmth and the sunshine while we still have it. September and October are deceivingly busy months, and although we probably feel like we need a break, it's time to dig deep and get those key autumn jobs done before it's too late. So, as crops come to an end, cut them down at the base, broadfork and mulch the beds. They can either be planted with hardy annuals or sown with cover crops. You can make compost piles with all of your cut down plant material. Try to add an even mixture of green and brown materials, chopping them up to increase surface area and mixing well for a good compost. Start collecting fallen leaves to make leaf mould or use as a mulch. Use leaf mould from the previous year to mulch beds or sieve it to add to compost mixes. Start ranunculus and anemone corns. Check out one of my previous videos for more detail on this. Start planting narcissi, but hold off planting tulips until it gets colder. Sow sweet peas. They prefer deep pots. Direct sow hardy annuals such as ammi, larkspur, corncockle and cornflower. Dig and divide summer flowering perennials while the weather is still warm. Take cuttings of tender perennials such as pelargoniums or chrysanthemums. Some growers decide to end their season before the first frost so they can get everything done before it gets too cold or before Christmas comes around. I like to do this too because it gives me a chance to get my old crops cleared and last minute cover crops sown before I get too busy with wreath making workshops and bulb planting. The only thing I usually leave is the dahlias. I like to see them out in the field for as long as possible. In October, continue clearing crops, mulching beds, planting out and sowing cover crops. Continue to plant spring flowering bulbs. If you have decided to overwinter some hardy annuals in the greenhouse, then they might want potting on before it gets too cold. Plants will go dormant over winter and will continue to grow in spring. Continue to sow sweet peas. Collect leaves and add them to a mesh ring or a pile to break down for a year into leaf mould. This makes great organic matter to add to your soil. While your dahlias are still flowering, make sure to label them so when they die back you know which varieties the tubers are. November is when the frost hits here, signalling the end of the growing season for most growers. The dahlias and any remaining half-hardy annuals will be killed off. Although the crops are over, it's time to start harvesting the eucalyptus. It's now safe to plant tulips. In more recent years, I've planted tulips using the no-dig method instead of digging a trench. You put the tulips on the surface of the soil and pile 5 or 6 inches of compost on top of them. November is also a really good time to get your pre-sprouted ranunculus planted in the polytunnel. If you're leaving dahlias in the ground, cut them down at the base and either compost the plants or chop them up and leave them on the bed to break down into the soil. Dahlia tubers are pretty cold tolerant, but they don't like to stay too wet. In the past, I've covered the bed with hay or straw, leaves and wool to mulch the beds, and then covered it with an impermeable plastic sheet to prevent too much rain from getting down into the soil. I haven't dug up dahlias for a few years, but I will be doing so this year, so stay tuned for an upcoming video on digging up, dividing and storing tubers over winter. December and January are definitely the most quiet months of a flower farmer's year, so make the most of it while you can. I usually run wreath making workshops from late November to early December, and it's so nice to take a break when they're done. I use December and January to reflect on the previous year and plan the following year. This is when note-taking and record-keeping really comes in handy. I set goals for how much money I want to earn the following year and plan how I can make it happen. Once I have a financial plan, I'll plan my beds, order seeds and dahlia tubers for the season ahead. It's also a good time to have a tidy up, clean the greenhouses and workbenches, etc., so you're ready for next season. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this video helps you to feel more organised and confident about what tasks you should be doing on the flower farm each month. I've put together a free download for you, which is a month-by-month task list, and I've put the link down in the description. You can also click on this QR code here to access it. If you found this video useful, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. I regularly post cut flower growing tips and behind the scenes from my flower farm. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.